The other day I was thinking that it would be nice to have an EQ matcher for vocals. But not just any old EQ matcher, I want this one to come preloaded with a bunch of presets, based on specific vocal styles, so that when I do have to mix my vocals, I can just apply that plugin and instantly get the sound that I want. I don't know if anything like that currently exists on the market, and I don't really care too much if it does, because in this economy, I ain't buying shit anyway.
Broke nigga alert.
But before I do anything, we need to understand exactly what an EQ matcher does and how it works. An equalizer, or EQ for short, is just a tool that allows you to control the volume level of specific frequencies within a sound. An EQ matcher takes the spectral EQ profile of a reference sound and adjusts the profile of your input sound until it resembles the reference sound. Pretty easy to understand. But how in the hell do you accomplish this? Well, I got bad news if you hate math, and more specifically, linear algebra. EQ matching algorithms rely fundamentally on something called a Fourier transform.
Jamie, pull up the Fourier series.
And whether you know it or not, you personally interact with Fourier transforms every day. Wi-Fi networks, noise-canceling headphones, and voice recognition software all require Fourier transforms to function. It's built off of this equation, which looks kinda scary, but it's really not as complicated as it seems. Basically, it just takes your input signal, which in our case would be a dry vocal recording, and it multiplies it by an analyzing function. That analyzing function is just a generic equation that outputs pure sine and cosine waves at every possible frequency. But why would multiplying your input signal by a massive range of frequencies one at a time be of any use? Well, basically, if you look at a simple sine wave, the area above and below the curve is equal. So if you add the two together, it cancels out to exactly 0. But if you multiply the sine wave by itself, the math squares the values, forcing the whole graph above 0. Make sense? Good. Your vocal recording is a complex waveform. It's a messy combination of hundreds of different sine waves interfering with each other. Now here's the genius part. If a test frequency isn't inside your input curve, the total area of the curve will always average out to 0. But whenever a test frequency matches one of the hidden ingredients inside of your input signal, the cancellation fails, and the final sum spikes above 0. By looking at where those spikes occur, the Fourier transform extracts all constituent frequencies from your input signal. An astute viewer may realize what I just described may work well for repetitive periodic signals, but will fail with something like a vocal recording because its signal contains a ton of variation throughout, with different words being spoken at differing levels of intensity and the occasional pauses to breathe. The signal of a vocal recording is highly variable. So in order to make this math work with complex non-periodic signals, we need to break that input into really small chunks so that the input actually becomes a periodic input. Meaning if we broke the signal into, say, 20 millisecond chunks, the math assumes that that 20 millisecond chunk is representative of the entire recording, and that little audio chunk repeats on a loop infinitely. This process then repeats itself thousands of times for the entire duration of the audio clip in increments of 20 milliseconds. To avoid popping or face clicks from these frequent chops, you also need to apply a windowing function that will fade the volume of each chunk in and out, which should make sense to you if you've ever worked with audio recordings in any capacity whatsoever. So my first step is to decide how I'm going to generate and store my references. The easiest thing I can think of is to export a short clip of a reference vocal, and then store its spectral data in a CSV document. Each row in the file represents a 21.5 Hz step, and the number being recorded in the document is just the average volume of the signal centered at that frequency. After that, we need to work on a static offline script that will take the wave file input and match its spectral data to the value stored within the CSV file.
Gonna stop, the game is on lock. You'll never win like Drake against Dot. I saved you this spot to watch me as I'm making this bop.
This is our gold standard reference script. Once we move to a real-time EQ plugin that runs natively in FL Studio, our ultimate goal is to reproduce results that approach this output. Since there are a ton of technical limitations working against us in real-time scripts, there's no way that we could ever actually reproduce these results exactly. We just aim to come as close as possible, and what constitutes close enough is, well, I guess we'll figure that out when we get there. The first massive hurdle is taking our static Python code and translating it into a real-time VST written in C++. Here's the bare bones plugin. There's no custom GUI or anything like that yet. I just need to test it out to make sure the code actually works.
Ain't gonna stop, the game is on lock. You'll never win like Drake against Dot. I saved you this spot to watch me as I'm making this bop.
Know your fucking place, trash.
It's not supposed to be distorting like that, obviously. Let's go back and investigate what's causing this. This one line here is most likely causing the distortion. Not only do I know what the bug is, I can actually demonstrate exactly what's happening here. First, let me generate a pure sine wave. Zoom in. Nothing really all that special or interesting there. of course. Now I have this Python script. Firstly, it simulates the input of a sine wave oscillating at around 500 Hz, which corresponds to a C5 note like the one that we just played. Then it simulates the distortion bug that we encountered earlier. When I run it, it should output a graph of the original sine wave along with a waveform that's been distorted by the bug. This distortion is caused by an error that uses sample indices directly as frequency bin lookups.
What the hell are you talking about?
We'll try to clarify this more in a minute. Before that, let's see what actually happens to our sine wave when it's put through this process. I mean, I'd say that's pretty similar to the Python graph. So yeah, the current program looks at each sample sequentially and then multiplies the volume of the input by the volume stored in the CSV document. To put it another way, the program looks at sample 1 and then multiplies it by the first amplitude value in my CSV file, and then multiplies sample 2 by CSV value 2, and so on and so forth. Here's a quick analogy. Imagine you have a bunch of bottles of cough syrup, or audio samples, sorted into bins based on their country of origin. And then you have a document, our CSV file, that contains tariff information based on the bin number that the cough syrup is originally placed in. The code in its current state is like a factory conveyor belt, moving a line of those bottles through a labeling machine. And instead of checking the bin number that each bottle came from, the machine just looks at the order in which they arrive on the belt. Bottle 3 gets the tax rate for bin 3, bottle 4 gets bin 4, and so on. Until you get to the point where the bottle number exceeds the number of countries on your list. At that point it wraps back around to the tax rate for bin 1 and repeats the loop. Because the document is organized by location and the machine is assigning tariff rates based on arrival order, the final output is fundamentally flawed. Does that make sense? I really fucking hope so. Anyway, now that we've diagnosed our problem, we can get to work fixing it. We're updating the code to correctly perform a short-time Fourier transform and applying that windowing function that I mentioned earlier. We also need to account for the fact that our analyzing function spits out real and imaginary pairs for each test frequency. It sounds confusing, but the reason behind it is very simple. There could be a scenario where your analyzing function outputs the exact correct frequency for one of your input signal's components, but it just so happens to be phase shifted by 90 degrees, in which case you'd get a false negative, meaning that despite outputting the correct frequency, the overall area of the curve will still sum to 0 anyway. To make sure that doesn't happen and we don't miss anything, we need to include both sine and cosine waves in our analyzing function. Because sine and cosine waves are offset from each other by 90 degrees, any signals missed by the sine wave will be picked up by the cosine wave, and vice versa. The imaginary component just acts as a separator. It ensures that the sine and cosine values don't get mixed up. We need them to be separate because in order for you to get the volume of a specific frequency, you need to use the Pythagorean theorem, with the sine and cosine values acting as the legs of the triangle. Anyway, here's our updated plugin.
Ain't gonna stop. The game is on lock. You'll never win like Drake against Dot. I saved you this spot to watch me as I'm making this bop. I'm finna crash out like Will when Jada's name was just dropped.
It sounds a lot better now, but it still needs a little bit of work. I'd like to add a smoothing parameter to help mitigate those harsh tones when I push the strength above 40%, but I'm so tired of math shit right now that I'd rather focus on making the GUI look nicer first. So step 1 is just to put something together in Photoshop. Step 2, I gotta change the window size of the plugin to match my Photoshop creation. And step 3 is to add a real-time spectral graphic to make the plugin look a little more interesting. I think that looks a lot better, don't you? We need to replace that slider with a proper dial though. The way to do this is with a vertical film strip that just has the knob duplicated 100 times, rotated very slightly on each successive duplication. But doing it this way is going to take forever, so we can save a lot of time by just using a script here. It's like magic. Beautiful. Here's what it looks like in our GUI now. Much better. We really only have a few things left to do to finish this project off. Firstly, let's add some final touches to our GUI. I'm thinking it would be cool to have the vacuum tubes respond to the dial's position. This should be really easy to accomplish with an opacity slider. After that, we can add in a smoothing function to deal with potential harshness from sharp cuts and boosts, a tapering function to tame high and low frequency regions to mitigate unnatural artifacts, and a learn or capture function that lets the plugin actually see our input signal. Then we can compare our VST output to our Python output and check how closely they match. First, we'll test it when it's on a mixer track but has everything set to 0. It shouldn't be doing anything right now. I'm doing this to make sure that the plugin isn't altering the input in any way that's unexpected or unintentional. The plugin is just dumping input data to a text document on my desktop. I'm then taking that and placing it in a CSV document containing the Python generated data on the same dry vocal recording. The numbers are definitely looking different, so in order to compare apples to apples, I need to normalize each data set with mean scaling. Then I can subtract the Python list from the VST list and look at the variance and the differences. As you can see, it's just under 1%, and for me, that's good enough. Next, we're going to pick an arbitrary number for strength, and 50% with 0% smoothing is fine with me. Now we're going to compare our VST's actual output to our Python script output. I took a bit of a different approach here, and I just graphed the shape of each curve. To me, it looks like they match pretty well, but looking at a graph and saying that it kind of looks like the other one isn't really a rigorous scientific approach. We need a quantifiable result here, and I'm going to use the cosine similarity function to achieve this, which just looks at all the peaks and valleys in our curves and assesses how closely they line up with each other. The closer the value is to 1, the closer they align, and we got 0.93. Remember when I said, and what constitutes close enough is, well, I guess we'll figure that out when we get there. Well, yeah, I'd say 0.93 is close enough. So let's make a quick beat and actually test how this plugin works on some new music. I'm gonna start off with the drums for a change. Add in a simple bass line. And let's throw in some chords. Good. The timing got a little messed up by the buffer, but the basic idea is there. Now I want to add a saxophone lead. Yeah, I'm gonna need to fix the timing on that one as well. Okay, everything's sounding pretty good. Let's record a verse and try out our plugin.
Jack and Coke while I'm smoking weed. Bit my fucking flows, you hit your quota for quoting me. I cannot go to sleep.
I'm gonna use around 40% strength and 70-ish% smoothing. And we'll just do a quick side-by-side comparison before I go fully mix and master the track.
Jack and Coke while I'm smoking weed. Bit my fucking flows, you hit your quota for quoting me. Jack and Coke while I'm smoking weed. Bit my fucking flows, you hit your quota for quoting me.
You can hear a lot more clarity and less mud in the EQ match version. I'm actually really happy with how this plugin turned out. Like, it's genuinely good enough for me to use it and want to incorporate it into future projects. That being said, I still need to add compression, reverb, de-essing, and all that other shit. So let me finish this off and check out our final product.
Jack and Coke while I'm smoking weed. Bit my fucking flows, you hit your quota for quoting me. I cannot go to sleep, they bombing shit overseas. Kids coming home in pieces and POTUS is posting memes. How am I supposed to feel? Get high as my grocery bill. As energies rise and my motivation gets lower still. Double this dose of pills and pray when you go to fill that prescription. Insurance is good for covering most of the bill. Hell, I thought we knew what's wrong from right. Sending shells at him like Cooper stomping twice. A smart dude, but usually choose to use the wrong advice. Please excuse the attitudes and the views that I wanna write. After all the cancers growing, podcaster panic showing. Candace Owens, Dylan Schultz, Andy Hamza, and it's Rogan. Rats abandoned in the Titanic after they crashed the boat. And ain't no going back, that mask is slipping and their ass is showing.